The rain came down in slow, icy sheets as a silver SUV crept into the parking lot of a dimly lit gas station just off Highway 38, a few miles outside of Red River, New Mexico. It was past 3 in the morning. The neon open sign flickered behind dusty glass, and the cold wind rattled a loose piece of metal siding like bones in an empty drum. The SUV stopped beside the last pump. The back door opened. A large German shepherd was nudged out into the wet blacktop. His paws hit the pavement, hesitant, confused. Before he could react, the door slammed shut. The dog, no leash, no collar, scrambled to follow, but the vehicle peeled off, its taillights disappearing into the dark like a cruel joke whispered and forgotten. He stood frozen for a moment, ears pricked, water dripping from his muzzle. His name, Cooper, though no one here knew that, might have echoed in the minds of the people who left him. But they didn't say it. They didn't look back. He waited. Rain soaked into his thick coat. He paced a bit, then circled back to where the SUV had been, sniffing the ground, hoping for a clue. When nothing came, he lay down near the pump, curled into himself, and kept his eyes on the road. Inside the gas station, Hank Dobson, 60, was dozing in a battered recliner behind the counter. A half-drunk coffee sat on a heater plate. The man had been running the place for 30 years and had seen all kinds of strange things during the graveyard shift, but never a soaking wet German shepherd waiting outside like a statue, not moving, not barking, just watching. It wasn't until nearly 6 a.m. that Hank opened the door to check the pumps and trash bins. He spotted the dog, still lying in the same place, unmoving but alert. Their eyes met for a second. "Well, hell," Hank murmured. He stepped inside, rummaged around for a clean metal bowl, and filled it with water from the tap. From a dusty shelf in the back, he grabbed a couple of jerky sticks meant for road trip snacks. When he stepped back outside, the dog didn't run. He didn't come either. Just watched. "You hungry, boy?" Hank asked softly, placing the bowl and jerky on the ground a few feet away. "Can't imagine last night was easy." The dog didn't flinch. He sniffed the air but didn't move toward the food. His eyes flicked past Hank, down the empty highway again. He was still waiting. By 7:30, the rain had slowed to a mist, and the morning light painted the puddles in soft gray. The first car of the day, a green minivan, pulled in for gas. A little girl in the back seat pointed at Cooper and pressed her face to the window. Her mom glanced over, confused. Hank watched as another customer, a delivery driver, snapped a picture on his phone. By 9 o'clock, 3 photos of Cooper had already made their way onto the town's community Facebook page under the caption, "This dog hasn't moved all morning. Anyone know him?" That's when Callie Dobson, Hank's 16-year-old granddaughter, arrived with a thermos of cocoa and her sketch pad. She was visiting for winter break, while her mom worked a nursing rotation in Santa Fe. She stepped out of her pickup truck, spotted Cooper, and paused. "Oh my God," she whispered. She approached slowly, holding her hands low. "Hey, big guy," she said. "It's okay. You look like you need a friend." Cooper didn't run. His ears twitched. His head turned slightly, but still, he didn't move. Callie sat cross-legged on the wet pavement, just far enough not to be threatening. She pulled out her sketch pad and began to draw. Not him, exactly. Just a shape, a shadow, a silhouette of a dog looking down an endless road. Hank stepped outside and grunted. "You know he's not going to let you near him, right?" Callie shrugged. "That's okay. I'll wait." Just like Cooper did. By noon, the weather had cleared. Hank brought out a proper dog bowl with some chicken from his lunch. This time, Cooper took a few tentative bites, but still kept one eye on the road. That afternoon, a car from KRDN local news rolled up. Angela Ramos, a 30-something reporter with a voice made for morning radio, stepped out and adjusted her mic. "We got 5 calls about this dog," she said, smiling at Hank. "Mind if I do a quick piece?" "Sure, just don't spook him," Hank replied. Angela crouched down and recorded a few shots of Cooper, now lying just outside the station doors, with Callie still sketching a few feet away. The segment aired that evening. Mysterious shepherd left behind at roadside gas station, and he won't leave. The clip ended with a close-up of Cooper's eyes, wide, still, and heartbreakingly loyal. That night, after the station closed, Hank switched off the main lights and locked the doors. Callie was asleep in the break room. Cooper remained just outside under the eaves, curled up on the mat, tail wrapped around his legs. Then, just past midnight, a sound floated in on the wind. A faint, high-pitched cry. Not human, not bird. Something softer. Frightened. Cooper lifted his head. The woods behind the station rustled. The cry came again, closer now, barely more than a whimper. He stood up. For the first time since being left behind, he looked away from the road. His ears turned toward the trees. Another cry. Then silence. He turned back toward the highway one last time. And then slowly, he padded toward the woods. Alone. The pine woods behind the gas station were thick and tangled, an old-growth patch stretching up the hill and into shadow. Moonlight filtered through the branches like shattered glass, casting long, narrow beams across the underbrush. Wind stirred the trees, making them groan like tired giants, but Cooper didn't flinch. He was moving now, ears high, nose low, muscles tense with instinct. The whimper came again. It was faint but desperate, like something small trying hard not to be heard. Cooper followed the sound off the gravel and into the forest, paws crunching over wet leaves and snapping twigs. He paused at a break in the tree line and sniffed the air. His coat was still damp from the rain, his legs sore from the long day of waiting. But he pressed forward, pulled by something he couldn't explain. Something that wasn't duty or instinct, but choice. He found the puppy half buried under a pile of broken branches. It was a Labrador mix, barely the size of a loaf of bread, shivering and smeared with dirt. One of its hind legs was twisted awkwardly, and a thin gash ran down its side. Its eyes were wide and glassy with pain. Cooper stood still for a moment. He stared down at the little thing, and the little thing stared back. 2 pairs of brown eyes locked in quiet recognition. The puppy whimpered again. A flash of memory struck Cooper, too quick to hold but sharp enough to sting. A young boy with a red hoodie, a warm couch, the smell of popcorn, a hand scratching behind his ears, a laugh. Then, nothing. Cold. Silence. A door slammed shut. Cooper lowered his head. He sniffed the pup gently, then nudged it with his nose. The puppy gave a tiny yelp but didn't try to crawl away. It was too weak. Something rustled behind them. Cooper's ears shot up. He turned fast, eyes scanning the dark. A low growl escaped his throat. There was movement, eyes in the brush. Coyotes, 3 of them, circling at a distance, lean and hungry. He stepped in front of the puppy and bared his teeth. His growl deepened. The coyotes hesitated. They knew this dog wasn't ordinary. His stance was military sharp. His body, though weary, was solid muscle. And his eyes said one thing: "You'll get through me over my dead body." A tense standoff. The coyotes snarled, but didn't advance. Cooper didn't budge. Finally, one turned and darted off, the others following. The sound of their retreat faded into the trees. Only then did Cooper turn back to the pup, whose head had dropped onto the ground. He lay beside it, curling his body around its tiny frame, shielding it from the wind. For the rest of the night, he didn't sleep. He watched and waited. By dawn, the rain had stopped. Frost clung to the tips of the grass like tiny diamonds. Cooper stood, stretched, and looked toward the faint outline of the gas station, barely visible through the thinning trees. The puppy whimpered again. Cooper walked back and nudged the little one gently. Then, ever so carefully, he picked the pup up by the scruff of the neck, the way a mother dog might carry her young. The tiny legs dangled, limp but safe. Cooper started walking, slow and steady, careful not to jostle the pup too much. Halfway through the woods, he heard footsteps crunching from the opposite direction. It was Deputy Troy Lambert, out early on his patrol shift. He spotted Cooper coming out of the trees, carrying the puppy like some kind of canine rescue operation. His jaw dropped. "Well, I'll be damned," he whispered. Troy reached slowly for his phone and started recording. Cooper didn't stop. He didn't look at the deputy. He just walked past, head high, steps proud, like he was doing exactly what needed to be done, like a soldier finishing his mission. Back at the gas station, Hank had just unlocked the door when he spotted them. First Cooper, then the dangling bundle in his mouth. "What in the world?" he muttered. Callie rushed outside, her breath catching in her throat. "Oh my God, is that a puppy?" Cooper laid the pup gently on the welcome mat, then backed up, letting them see. Callie knelt down. "He's hurt," she said, "and freezing." Hank fetched an old towel and a shallow pan of warm milk. Cooper stood just outside the door, not daring to come inside, but watching every move. His eyes never left the pup. Within 10 minutes, the puppy had stopped shaking. He was swaddled in blankets, nose buried in a heated cloth. Callie gently cleaned the dirt from his wounds. "He needs a name," she said softly. "What about Scout?" The puppy gave a tiny sneeze. Hank chuckled. "Scout, huh? Seems fitting." Callie looked at Cooper. "You brought him back. You saved him." Inside her pocket, her phone buzzed. A notification from the local Facebook group. Someone had uploaded Deputy Troy's video already. "Abandoned dog carries injured puppy out of the woods. Real-life hero." The post was exploding. Comments, shares. News crews were already asking for interviews. Cooper stood in the doorway, tail still, body tense, unsure. Callie walked to him slowly and knelt. "You're safe here," she whispered. "I don't know what they did to you, but I do know this. What you did tonight, that was brave." She held out her hand. Cooper sniffed it. Then, for the first time, he wagged his tail just once, slow and cautious. But it was a start. By mid-morning, Red River, New Mexico, was buzzing. The video of Cooper carrying Scout through the trees had already been shared over 10,000 times. People from all over the state, and soon the country, were talking about the guardian shepherd. Some called it a miracle. Others called it the kind of story the world needed right now. But everyone agreed on one thing. This dog wasn't just any dog. Cooper and Scout, still weak from their ordeal, had taken up a spot near the front counter of Hank's gas station. Scout slept curled up on an old wool blanket, his bandaged legs sticking out, while Cooper sat beside him, chest tall, eyes watchful. He wasn't just guarding the pup. He was watching the door, the street, the world, waiting for something, or maybe for someone. Customers who normally just pumped gas and left now lingered. Some brought snacks. Others came just to look at the two dogs. Many tried to pet Cooper, but he wouldn't let them. He tolerated Callie. Only her. Angela Ramos from KRNV Channel 6 arrived with a camera crew just after lunch. "I'm here to meet the real-life hero," she said, setting up a tripod while her cameraman adjusted the lens. She looked at Hank. "You think he'll let me get close?" Hank scratched his chin. "You can try, but I wouldn't push it." Angela crouched down a few feet from Cooper. "You're the one, huh?" she said softly. "The guardian shepherd?" Cooper blinked. Scout stirred in his sleep, nuzzling closer. Angela smiled and turned back to the camera. "We're here at a small-town gas station just outside Red River, where a remarkable rescue has turned an abandoned German shepherd into a local legend." Callie, watching from behind the snack aisle, felt her chest swell with something between pride and heartbreak. That night, people began leaving things at the station. Bones, squeaky toys, dog food, blankets, even little drawings from kids who had seen the story online. One boy left a note that said, "Dear Cooper, you are the bravest dog in the whole world." Cooper didn't seem to know what to do with the attention. He never wagged his tail when strangers came, never barked or growled, just watched. Always watched. Callie sat beside him after closing time. She placed a bowl of chicken near his paws, but he didn't eat right away. "You're still not sure if this place is home, huh?" she murmured. "I get that." She looked at Scout, who was snoring softly now, his tiny belly rising and falling. "You chose him, when nobody chose you." Cooper tilted his head slightly. That night they all slept inside, the heater humming gently, the town quiet. The next day, Emily Sandoval pulled into the parking lot in a green Subaru packed with kennels, leashes, and a clipboard full of notes. She stepped out in jeans, hiking boots, and a "Rescue is my favorite breed" t-shirt. "I'm Emily," she introduced herself to Hank. "I'm a certified behaviorist with Canine Cares. Saw the video, drove straight from Albuquerque." Hank nodded. "He's something, all right." Emily approached Cooper slowly. She crouched near him, not too close. "No pressure, big guy," she said gently. "You tell me when you're ready." Cooper watched her. She tossed a tiny liver treat a few feet in front of him and waited. Cooper sniffed it, ate it, then looked at her again. Emily smiled. "Not bad. We'll work on trust." Meanwhile, Callie was showing Scout how to chew on a plush toy shaped like a squirrel. The puppy was bouncing back fast, tail wagging, eyes bright. But he never strayed far from Cooper. The bond between them was unshakable. Later that afternoon, Mrs. Eunice Ralston, the woman who filmed the original video, dropped off a framed print of her now famous snapshot. Cooper carrying Scout through the pine needles, the golden light of dawn glowing around them. "This should hang right here," she told Hank, tapping the wall above the coffee station, "so no one forgets what courage looks like." As Hank was nailing it up, Callie noticed something outside. A white sedan, tinted windows, engine idling across the street. She squinted. "Grandpa, look." Hank stepped beside her. "You know that car?" Callie shook her head. "That's the second time I've seen it today." Inside, Cooper was already standing, muscles tight, gaze fixed out the window. The sedan sat there another few seconds, then drove away. Emily looked at Hank. "Something about that." He frowned. "Just a feeling." As the sun began to set, the clouds rolled in thick and low. A storm was coming, and something told Cooper this story wasn't over. Not yet. The wind howled down from the mountains that night, lashing against the gas station windows like cold hands searching for cracks. Hank had closed up early. The clouds were too low, the air too electric, and something in Cooper's behavior made him uneasy. The dog hadn't slept, hadn't curled up beside Scout. He just sat near the front door, ears perked, eyes sharp, like a sentry waiting for an enemy to make its move. Scout was curled in his blanket bed, snoring softly. Callie had tried to get Cooper to rest beside him, but he refused. "He knows something," she whispered to Hank as they locked up for the night, "like he's bracing for something bad." "I feel it too," Hank replied, shutting off the overhead lights. Just after midnight, headlights washed across the dark windows. A low rumble followed, a slow-moving engine idling just beyond the pumps. Cooper stood up fast, body rigid. A deep growl vibrated from his chest. Hank pulled aside the curtain and peered out. The white sedan. "They're back," he said under his breath. "Same damn car." Before he could reach for his phone, the front door rattled. Someone was trying to open it. Then came the sharp tap of knuckles on glass. Cooper barked once, a deep, fierce bark that rattled the shelves. Scout yelped awake, trembling. From outside came a voice, a woman's. "We just want our dogs back. Open the door!" Hank rushed toward the entrance and flipped on the porch lights. The couple from the gas station footage stood there. Same silver coats, same smug expressions. The man wore a dark hoodie pulled low over his brow. The woman's lipstick looked smeared. They didn't look like loving pet owners. They looked like trouble. "These dogs belong to us," the man shouted, slapping his hand against the glass. Cooper lunged forward, teeth bared, placing himself between the door and Scout. The growl he released this time wasn't just a warning, it was a promise. "You leave now," Hank yelled through the glass, "or I'm calling the sheriff." "Call whoever you want," the woman snapped. "We'll get them back, one way or another." Scout whimpered and pressed into Cooper's side. Callie was already on the phone with Deputy Troy Lambert. "They're here," she said quickly. "The white car people. They're trying to break in." The couple retreated to their sedan as the sound of sirens whined in the distance. Tires squealed. They peeled out, disappearing into the darkness. Deputy Lambert arrived 5 minutes later, flashlight in hand, badge gleaming under the flickering porch light. He listened carefully to Hank and Callie, his face growing more serious by the second. "I've seen that woman before," he muttered. "She's part of a flagged transport group, under investigation for animal trafficking." He bent down to Cooper, who hadn't taken his eyes off the door since the encounter. "You're some kind of watchdog, huh?" Lambert said softly. "Good boy." Cooper's ears flicked back just slightly, his body loosening, but only a bit. Later that morning, while the town buzzed with new updates, Emily Sandoval brought in a scanner. She gently lifted Scout and ran the device over his shoulder. A beep. Then a flashing light. "He's chipped," she said, "and not to them." She tapped at her tablet, cross-referencing the ID. Scout was stolen 2 weeks ago from a shelter in Taos County. The chip still has him registered as a rescue case, never formally adopted. Callie gasped. "They kidnapped him?" Emily nodded grimly. "And abandoned him when he became sick or too expensive. It's common in underground breeding and flipping rings. Dogs are commodities to people like that." "They're not getting near him again," Hank said firmly. By the end of the day, Cooper's face was back on the news, this time not just as a hero, but as a witness. Local reporters called it a potential breakthrough in an ongoing investigation. The footage of the couple shouting through the glass ran alongside security cam clips of the original abandonment. People in town began driving by just to honk and wave. Children left handmade signs on the windows. "Stay strong, Cooper," and "Scout's Guardian forever." But the tension hadn't broken. Not fully. That night, Hank kept a loaded flashlight and his phone beside the bed. He couldn't sleep. Every crack in the wind made him sit up. Every creak on the porch made Cooper rise from his place near Scout. Before dawn, someone knocked. This time, it was Deputy Lambert again. He had paperwork in his hands and a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "The state's pressing charges against the couple," he announced. "Transporting stolen animals, reckless endangerment, attempted theft." Callie rushed forward. "What about Cooper and Scout? Are they safe now?" "They'll have to go through a custody hearing," Lambert said gently. "But based on everything, you've got a damn good case." Cooper exhaled through his nose like he understood. Hank looked down at both dogs, one big, one small, both changed forever. "We're not just gonna fight for them," he said. "We're gonna win." The courthouse in Red River wasn't much to look at. Just a red brick building tucked between a diner and the post office. But that morning, it felt like the center of the universe. People packed the wooden benches inside the courtroom, some clutching homemade signs that read things like "Justice for Scout" and "He waited." "He protected." "He deserves better." Cooper and Scout weren't allowed inside, but they waited just outside with Emily and Callie. Scout was curled up in Callie's lap, chewing on the corner of her hoodie string. Cooper sat like a soldier, unmoving, his ears twitching with every sound from within the building. Inside, the hearing had begun. Hank Dobson stood straight at the front of the room, hat clutched in his hands. Beside him was Angela Ramos, not as a reporter this time, but as a character witness. Emily Sandoval sat close behind them, folders full of documentation, vet records, behavior logs, microchip reports. Even Deputy Troy Lambert showed up in uniform, offering his full support. Across the aisle, the couple sat flanked by a thin, sharp-looking lawyer. They looked very different now, less smug, more cornered. The judge was an older woman with steel-gray hair pulled tight and glasses perched on her nose. She read through the case file quietly, then leaned forward. "This case is unusual," she began. "What we have is a dog, an abandoned German shepherd, who not only survived being dumped, but also rescued a second dog, one that was later identified as stolen. The couple claiming ownership has no documentation, no proof of purchase, no veterinary history. And thanks to this town, we have security footage, eyewitness accounts, and enough community testimony to fill a courthouse." She paused. "Frankly, I'm surprised this ever needed a hearing." The courtroom murmured. Then Callie stepped forward, her hands shaking slightly as she unfolded a piece of lined notebook paper. "Your Honor," she said, voice soft but steady. "May I read something?" The judge nodded. Callie cleared her throat and began. "It's a letter from Scout," she said. "I wrote it, from how I think he would feel." The room grew still. "Dear people, I don't remember where I was born or who held me first, but I remember being scared and cold and hungry. I remember being alone in the woods and thinking that was the end. But then, someone came. He didn't say anything. He just laid down next to me and kept me warm. He growled when other animals came close. He carried me out when I couldn't walk. He saved me. I don't know what family means, but I know what love feels like now. It feels like warm blankets and soft voices and someone who always stands between you and danger. That someone is Cooper. Please don't take him away. We belong together." When she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. The judge took off her glasses and rubbed the corner of her eye before speaking. "Effective immediately," she declared. "Custody of Cooper and Scout is awarded to Mr. Hank Dobson of Red River. Ms. Callie Dobson is recognized as legal guardian for Scout under adult supervision. The couple's petition is denied, and animal cruelty charges are being escalated to the district court." The crowd burst into applause. Outside, as soon as Hank stepped through the doors with the news, Cooper stood. He looked from face to face, tail wagging low, until he saw Callie. She nodded once, eyes shining. "It's over," she whispered. "You're safe." Cooper pressed his head against her legs. Scout yipped and leapt up to lick Hank's hand. That night, the gas station held a small celebration. Neighbors brought cupcakes and hot cider. Someone donated a carved wooden sign to hang above the entrance. The Guardian Pump. The letters were bold and elegant, with a small outline of a shepherd's silhouette beneath it. Angela Ramos returned, not for an interview, but just to drop off a framed copy of the town newspaper headline, "The Shepherd Who Waited and Then Chose to Act." The photo showed Cooper standing in the doorway of the station, Scout curled up beside him, the sun rising behind them. Later, long after the crowd had gone, Hank sat outside in an old rocking chair, sipping tea. Callie leaned against the wall beside him, Scout fast asleep in her lap. Cooper lay on the steps, ears twitching, eyes half closed. "You know," Hank said softly, "I've run this place for 30 years. Thought I'd seen everything." Callie smiled. "Until a hero showed up at your pumps." He chuckled. "Yep, and he brought a little sidekick with him." Cooper's tail thumped once. Above them, stars blanketed the New Mexico sky, and for the first time in a long time, everything felt still. Safe. Loved.